Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. Okay, so we're going to talk about midpoints between 2 points today. Please refer to my previous video, and if you've not subscribed, please don't forget to and turn the notification bell so when I upload new videos, you'll be the first person to know. So when we talk about midpoint, what are we referring to? So we're saying when we say midpoint, we're referring to a point that is exactly in the middle of the line segment joining 2 points. So that means you have 2 points, point A and point B, okay? And like I said, they have their coordinates x1, y1, and they have their coordinate x2, y2. And we found in the previous video, we know how to find the distance between both of them, okay? Talked about that in the previous video, but this time we're looking for the point that is exactly in the middle here, okay? What is the coordinate of this point? Okay, we don't know. So let's call the coordinate of this point, let's call it something like xm. So let's call it like xm, ym. So let's just make something like this. So let's call it the coordinates for xm and ym. So we don't know the coordinates there. So that means the midpoint has its own coordinates. So that means this point has its own coordinate. All right. So for those that are writing, so that I can write it down. So the midpoint, okay, when I talk about the midpoint, it refers to a point, all right? So it refers to a point that is exactly, okay, the key word is exactly, it has to be precise, exactly in the middle, all right, of the line segment. Joining 2 points, okay? So is the midpoint refers to the point that's exactly in the middle of the line segment joining 2 points. So when do we use, when can you use this? Okay, so when can you use the midpoint formula? Okay, so when can you use the midpoint formula? The first thing is that the only time you can use it is when the 2 points coordinates are known. So when the 2 points coordinates are known, 2 points coordinates. So when the 2 point coordinates are known, so that means when you know the x1, that means technically when you know x1, y1, and you know x2, y2. So that means in this case, you know the value for this one, you know your x1, y1, and you know your x2, what? Y2. So when you know both of them, then you can use the midpoint formula. Is that okay? So that's why you can use the midpoint formula to solve it. Now, the second thing as well is that when can you use this as well is when you also have the coordinates of the endpoints, and you also know the midpoint as well. So that means you can use this to get the third point. So that means when we know the midpoint and one of the endpoints. All right, so that is it. So that means in this case, let's say for instance, you know how to, you get the xm, ym, you know the coordinates of this, and maybe you know x2, y2, all right? Then you can find x1, y1. That's what I'm trying to say. So when you use the formula, first, when you know both of them, or you know the midpoint coordinates and one of the endpoints coordinates, all right? Good. So what is this formula, all right? So the midpoint, which is what I said is xm, ym. So that means xm is the coordinates for the midpoint, x coordinate at the midpoint. Ym is the y coordinate at the midpoint is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by what? 2, all right? So that means it's x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So that means the x1 here plus the x2, you add it and divide by 2. The y1 plus the y2, you add it and you also divide by 2. So how do you do this? So the 3 rules, okay? So the first thing is that you have to then identify, okay, your x1, your y1, and what? Your x2 and y2 first, okay? So you have to first identify them appropriately. Then when you've identified that, the next thing that you have to substitute into the formula. So you have to substitute correctly, okay, into the formula. So you know that the formula I just talked about is that it's x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by what? 2. Then when you've substituted it correctly, then the next thing now is that you then have to what? Simplify. Okay? Then you now evaluate or simplify. All right, let's pick an example now. So let's assume we have this example here. So we have number 1. Okay? Number 1, we're told to determine the midpoint. So determine the midpoint of the given line. Okay, of a given line segment PQ. Okay, if P is what? 4 and 8 and Q is 10 and 2. The question said you should find the what? The midpoint. So if you look, the first thing we have to do is that we have to first identify our x1, y1, and x2, y2. So like I said, personally, I'm more biased towards making this. You can make it any way. You can make your q your x1 and this your x2. It will give you the same thing, but you have to just be consistent. So for me, I'm going to say this is my x1, this is my y1, and this is my x2, this is my what? Y2. So my x1, my y1, my x2, my y2. So my x1 is 4, my y1 is 8, my x2 is 10, and my y2 is what? 2. Step 2 said that we need to substitute it into the formula, right? So let's go. We know the formula for the midpoint is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by what? 2. So let's go. So the midpoint for this is going to be the x1 is 4 plus 10 divided by 2, and the y1 plus y2 is going to give us 8 plus 2 divided by 2. So step 3 said we should then what? Simplify. Then we'll have to simplify this. So it's going to give us 4 plus 10 will give us 14. 14 divided by 2 will give us what? 7. So the first one we have is 7. The second one will be 8 plus 2 will be 10. 10 divided by 2 will be 5. So that means the midpoint for this is going to be 7, what? 5. Okay? So the midpoint for this is 7, 5. So we're gonna pick another example now. Let's say number 2, we have find the midpoint. So let's say we have find the midpoint of AB, okay? When A is 2x plus 6, 2y minus 4, and B is 2x minus 4 and 2y plus what? 18. Okay? Let's assume in this case now we're told to find the midpoint. As usual, the first thing to do is to identify. So you have to identify your x1 and your y1. So x1, y1, and you have to find your x2, y2. Okay, so this is going to be my x1, this is going to be my y1, this is going to be my x2, this is going to be my y2. So my x1 is going to give me 2x plus 6. My y1 is going to give me 2y minus what? 4. My x2 is going to give me 2x minus 4. My y2 is going to give me 2y plus 18. Okay? Then step 2, we then put it in the formula. Okay? We know the midpoint is going to be equal to x1, which is 2x plus 6 plus y2 plus 2x minus 4 divided by 2. And we have y2, y1 is 2y minus 4 plus y2 is 2y plus 18 divided by what? 2. So we're going to have, so step 3, we have to then what? Simplify. So we'll collect like terms based on algebra. So 2x plus 2x will give us what? 4x. 6 minus 4 will give us what? 2 divided by 2. 2y plus 2y will give us what? 4y. Minus 4 plus 18 will give us what? Plus 14 divided by what? 2. But we can't just stop here. We can simplify this further. So remember, in the when I was talking about basic algebra, I told you something that if you have a plus b divided by c, is the same thing as saying a over c plus what? B over c. All right. So we talked about this in basic algebra. So that means the midpoint, I can rewrite the midpoint again. So we had 4x plus 2 over 2. So it's going to give us 4x plus 2 divided by 2. And we had 4y plus 14 over 2, right? So we have 4y plus 14 divided by 2. So I can rewrite this again based on this principle. I can say this is the same thing as saying 4x over 2 plus 2 over 2, comma, 4y over 2 plus 14 over 2. That making sense? 4x divided by 2 will give you what? 2x plus 2 divided by 2 will give you 1. And 4y divided by 2 will give us 2y plus what? 14 divided by 2 will give you what? 7. So that means the midpoint for this now is 2x plus 1 and 2y plus 7. I'll pick another example. Okay, so number 3. Let's assume we're told to find P, okay? Find P in the given line segment. Okay? We're told to find P in the given line segment. Coordinates. Okay? So we have A was 4 and 8. Are you seeing it? We're told that B was 10 and P, and the midpoint for this, the midpoint was what? 7 and 5. So what is the value for P? So we're looking for P. What's the value for the missing one here? Okay. So we follow the same step. The first step is that we're going to identify. So our x1, y1, and our x2, y2. Our x1, y1, and our x2 what? Y2. So that means our x1 for this is going to be 4, Our y1 is going to be 8. Our x2 is going to be 10. And our y2 is what we're looking for, the p. Now, step 2 is that we're told that the midpoint, okay, we know the formula for midpoint is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by what? 2. Okay, so we know the midpoint was already given to us as 7 and 5, so that means 7 and 5. So it's equal to 4. X1 is what? 4 plus x2, 10 divided by 2. And y1 is what? 8 plus p divided by 2. So when we solve this, it should give us 7. And if you check, 4 plus 10 is 14. 14 divided by 2 will give you what? 7. So that means the next thing is that when we solve 8 plus p divided by 2, our answer should be 5. Okay? So that means that is what we are looking for. So step 3, the 5 must be equal to 8 plus p divided by what? 2. So what do? You multiply both sides by 2. Okay, you multiply both sides by 2. So this will cancel this. So you now have 10 is equal to 8 plus p. You take 8 to the other side. So 10 minus 8 is equal to p. 10 minus 8 will give you what? 2 is equal to p. So therefore, with this now, we can say p is equal to what? 2. So for that question, p is equal to 2. All right, so I'm gonna pick just one more question just to round it up. Then when you just go to the worksheet, try as much as possible to solve as many questions as you can. All right. All right, so we're gonna go to another question. So let's say in this question we're told to find p and hence the coordinates. All right, and hence the coordinates of A and B. Given, okay, given that A is what? P, 3, B is 3p minus 4, what? 17. Having midpoint, having the midpoint to be minus 8 and 10. Okay, so now we're told to find P and hence the coordinate of A and B. All right, so let's start. The first thing I'm going to do, as usual, I'm going to first find the x1 and my y1. All right, step 1. So I'm going to find my x1, my y1, and my x2 and y2. All right. So x1, this is going to be my x1, my y1. This is my x2 and my what? My y2. All right. So my x1 is what? P. My y1 is 3. My x2 is 3p minus 4. And my y2 is what? 17. So the next step, step 2. So remember the middle point is x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by what? 2. And the midpoint was minus 8 and 10 was equal to the x1 was p plus 3p minus 4 divided by what? 2. And 3 plus 17 divided by 2. As you can see, the 3 plus 17 give you 20 divided by 2 will give you the answer here, 10. Can you see? So that means this, when I simplify this one, my answer should be minus 8. Can you see? So we go to the next step. So therefore, minus 8 must be equal to p plus 3p minus 4 divided by 2. Minus 8 is going to give us 4p, right? Minus 4 divided by 2. To get rid of this 2, I will multiply both sides by what? 2. Are you seeing it? Then it's going to give me 2 times minus 8 will give me minus 16 is equal to 4p minus 4. I take 4 to the other side. So it's going to give me minus 16 plus 4 is equal to 4p. Okay. Then I divide both sides by 4. Okay. So therefore, p will be equal to minus 16 plus 4 divided by 4. And when you do this, it's going to give you what? Minus 3. So our p is minus 3. But we can't stop there. We're also told to find the coordinates, okay? So that means I can now say A. So A was what? P comma 3. So that means the real coordinates for this is going to be minus 3 comma 3 for what? For A. For B, we're told it is 3p minus 4 comma 17. So it's going to give us 3 into bracket minus 3 minus 4 comma 17. 3 times minus 3 will give you minus 9. Minus 9 minus 4 will give you minus 13. So that means for B is minus 13, 17. That is the coordinate for B. All right, and that'll be that for that, and that'll be that for the midpoint. So now we've known how to find the distance. We found the distance between 2 points. Now we can also find the midpoint. So that means you can have questions asking you for both the distance and the midpoint. So we now know how to find distance between A and B. Okay. Now we know how to find the midpoint between A and B. The next one I'm going to talk about is how do we find the gradient or the slope of AB, of the line segment AB. And like I said, if you've not reviewed the previous video, you have to do it because as we keep on going, I'm going to be building on the concept discussed earlier in the video. All right. All right. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you have any question, feel free to chat me up or you can send me an email and I will get back to you. All right. See you soon. And I'll talk about the gradient of a line.